Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML. We are back on another niche area of the book. Today we're on 165, reflection 165. And I think we want to talk about some kind of human inspiration today. So let's hit it.
Yeah, this book is called Unbroken. It's a World War II story of survival, resilience, and redemption by the author Laura Hillenbrand. You guys seen this movie before? Like, or heard of the movie Unbroken? It's about the life of Louis Zamperini. I think Angelina Jolie was in the movie. This is the book that it was based off of. It's about Louis's life. It's a real story. He was a bit of a troublemaker as a kid. He grew up in Los Angeles and he found running in general and like track. It became kind of his outlet. He became one of the best mile runners in the country. He excelled at it and really channeled a lot of his issues into it. He found an outlet and he became pretty damn successful with it. So much so that he eventually qualified for the Olympics in 1932. Is that the last one that they had before, or whatever the one was in Berlin, before like the whole World War II thing started? And I think he got, I can't remember if it was like third or fourth or something like that. I don't think he medaled. I think he got like fourth but anyway, he had like this epic like comeback on the last lap that he almost like medaled or something like that. It caught like Hitler's attention and he like called him up to his little booth and he was like, man, that was amazing. Like anyway, so he was, I can't remember exactly what happened with the rest of his track career, but he eventually got drafted into the military during World War II and he became on a bomber crew. The story is about what happened to him after that. So it's a story about his life. It's not an autobiography. It's or what do you call it when somebody else writes your life story? Is that an autobiography?
No, that's just a biography.
It's a biography. So Laura Hildebrand is the one that wrote this, and she's like an amazing writer. But it's about Louis' story. So the story is ridiculous. I'll go ahead and share it. Like, talk about an I can't imagine event. Like this book is one long I can't imagine event. The reflection title for this one is The Human Spirit is Really Contagious. And I don't know, that's all I could think about after I read this book. So Louis, when he goes into the theater of combat, he's flying missions in the Asia Pacific, the war against Japan and stuff like that side of the World War II theater. And his flight got shot down when they were on the bombing raid. The plane crashed into the ocean and only like 3 of them survived. He was one of the 3 people that survived the crash. It was him and this other guy named Mac and this other guy named Phil. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. Anyway, so they survive and now they have this little tiny raft. They got off the plane and they were adrift for like 46 days in the ocean. No food, no water, no nothing. Like, they like, man, like the resilience that these guys, showed when they were stranded at sea. They had no idea if they were going to get saved or if anybody was ever going to find them. They would use all kinds of crazy tactics to keep themselves mentally engaged. They would go through different stories and visualization exercises in their head. They'd pretend like they were eating certain meals when they had no food. Whenever they did get stuff, they shared it and caught water, whatever. They invented ways to stay alive while they were on this raft, exposed to the sun, no water, no food, all that other stuff. One of them eventually actually passed away on the raft, but somehow after, I think it was 46 days, they said it was the longest that anybody's ever been stranded at sea. And found and rescued. And so it was after 46 days, they were rescued by a Japanese war vessel. And they were obviously taken in as a prisoner of war at that point in time. So not if the story ended there, I'd be like, holy shit, like that was a crazy story, But then they became prisoners of war, detainees, and that was like even worse because they endured all the craziness through just trying to survive out on their own and on the elements and everything. But now they had to survive in prisoner of war camps in Japan, and they were especially because Louis was kind of a famous person, a former Olympian. The Japanese prisoner of war camps tried to break him really hard, so they did a lot of really crazy bad shit to him, and he never broke. I mean, that's why the book's called Unbroken. He would always stand tall, lived the stuff that he cared about.
Like, what was he just not giving out secrets, or what do you mean that he didn't break?
Yeah, they wanted him to be like propaganda and do radio messages and things like that. And he would never give in. He would never let his captors feel like they were superior to him or could treat him like less than a human being. So whenever they would try to do stuff, he would always stand up to them and stand up for the rest of the people around him. And, just doing whatever he could to honor himself and be himself in that scenario and never give up. And, after a couple of years as a prisoner of war, he eventually, and enduring some crazy, awful scenarios and situations that he was in. He got moved a few different times. He had a lot of diseases that happened to him. Like, I mean, I don't know how he survived, honestly, but eventually he actually, obviously as the war ended, they made it out of the prisoner of war camp, and then he went back home. So the story is about his life. And as I was reading this book, like it just, all I could think about was the human spirit is contagious. It's like, why do we want what is so great about life to endure all of that stuff, you know? And it just took me back to my time with Amelia and thinking like the stuff that she was thrown into and Louis and what he was thrown into. And like nobody can control this stuff and nobody can foresee these things. But once we get thrown into those events, it's like when your true character gets revealed a lot of times for some weird reason, like we want to live. I don't know why. I mean, like, I don't know what I can't imagine being in that situation. And it just reminded me of the book, A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson when I was reading this. And that was the reflection that I wrote about, you know, the crazy thing about life. What I learned in that book was as he went through from time began to what we know today, the most crazy thing about life that I saw in that book and that I could think about was no matter what happened, no matter what crazy events happened in this world, the one thing that was a constant was like life endured, you know, and like in some form, you know, I don't know if it, you know, if it was human or not, but like life just has this weird desire to want to exist, and I don't know why. Like, so that was it. Just this book just made me feel very kindred connection to just the human spirit of like, I don't know why we do what we do, but you know, but it made me, I don't know, it kind of just inspires you. And like hearing stories like Amelia and hearing stories like Louis and, you know, all these other people. And so the question for you guys is, what stories of others inspire you to fight when it looks like hope may be lost? Why do you guys think that we fight when we're put into that situation? Why not just be like, oh, okay, all right, this sucks, I'm out. You know what I mean? What do you guys think?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I wonder if it's like a biological, like evolutionary gene or trait within us, you know, rather than just be dead, you know. But then like there's other species that do it too, like whether the possum, you know, like plays dead, you know. And, but I mean, I guess it is, oh, the genes want to keep going on, but then why do genes want to keep going on? Like,
I don't know.
What's the point of that in a way?
I agree. I don't know. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting concept to think about. Like, yeah, why do we fight? And
it's inspiring. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it's inspiring, but you know,
it is inspiring. I think I'm inspired by my dad from his life, how he hasn't given up hope or just keeps working. It makes us feel more alive to keep fighting. And I guess just being alive feels good, whatever's going on. I'm curious, Rio, what do you think?
Well, I think the genes that wants to live gets to pass on the gene to the next generations. I mean, this is as logical as that. Now, the gene that doesn't want to live, it's going to die out. I mean, it's going to become extinct. So I think we have a gene that wants to have the survival at most cost. So the thing is, for me, I believe that a lot of people have different levels of mental fortitude or psyche, right? They have a different level of psyche that some people are born to survive because they have a gene that gives them that feeling of I can endure as much as as much physical punishment as you give me. But at the same time, I've seen people who have gotten depressed and commit suicide.
Right.
And so there's that level of range between how much mental fortitude you have as a person. Some people just have more of it and some people have less. I think it has to do with the gene, and more of the gene, like most of us really have that gene because like I say, the gene that wants to live gets to pass on their traits to the next generations. The one that doesn't, well, you don't live long enough to have babies and then have kids to carry on the gene. So I think human as a species, they want to live. They don't want to die. I think that's the reason why a lot of the history of human is basically a selfish gene, but also have a ability to have this group, like sacrifice for the group, just because I want to pass on the gene. So we are conditioned by that particular gene to do things that's good for humankind. A lot of people have sacrificed themselves for the good of the masses, go to war, be a soldier and protect the family, and protecting your sister, protecting your friends and all that. So it gives us great pride when we have that opportunity. We get to do that. We get to protect people, and that's the gene that makes us do what we want to do. But like I said, I think like some people have stronger mental fortitude, and for this particular person, I think he can endure any kind of physical abuse as long as they don't get to him mentally. If they get to him mentally, then that gene basically doesn't enforce that bad behavior anymore, and he'll crack.
But yeah, but I think it's like, yeah, but why do genes want to keep going on though? Like,
That's what I'm saying is, we were talking about like genes and evolution, right? These are just random stuff. By mutation, you have genes that want to live longer, genes that want to fight and get killed earlier. So if you're talking about random genes that say, hey, some of these guys are wants to survive and some of these guys don't really care about life that much. Well, the guy who doesn't care about life that much, they probably going to live into their 30s and they die. So basically, they only leave like one kid. The other guy who lives to 60 and 90, they have like 10 kids.
Yeah,
And
so
then
then
that gene will pass on.
Yeah, it just makes sense. Like, yeah, like obviously the species that, I mean, life on Earth started a long, long time ago. So it's just like, obviously that it was just like an evolutionary thing that genes that wanted to keep living kept living,
Exactly.
Yeah, and then for us, we have the uncanny ability to tell stories as well and to share those stories with people. So like stories like this inspire me to go, if I'm ever in a weird ass situation like that where I can be like, oh man, well if Louis can do it, or for me personally, it's like if Amelia could do it, like I could do it. You know what I mean? Like I mean that. So I mean, like there's something inspiring too about this. I don't know what it is, like that I mean, because I can imagine myself sitting on a raft and floating in the Indian Ocean or whatever for 46 days with no idea of when somebody's going to come, and I'd be like, that's what I'm talking about, is when you hit to that point in time, like there is no genetic, like survive or don't survive. Like I mean, you're literally like, hey, like I gave him my best chance. You know what I mean? Like like I'm cool. But true, you're right. It's the mental games that he played the entire time were like why he survived and was able to shield himself from so many different realities that were facing him square in the face. Like it's like why do we not just face reality sometime and go, okay, like you got me, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean it's
yeah, it reminds me kind of like Viktor Frankl, like how he was able to stay alive in the concentration camps.
No, you're exactly right. Actually, I remember I was thinking that exact same thing as you guys were talking about. It reminded me of, he would say when he knew that somebody was going to die, the day that they would take their last cigarette out and smoke it. And then he was like, well, we knew they were going to be gone by the end of the day. And they just gave up. I mean, like they mentally just were like, okay, I'm good. I'm done. At that point is like what I'm trying to get at is why, like, how does, like, why does he keep going? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can kind of understand somebody just being like, it's my last cigarette, I'm done.
Well, because somebody didn't give him the memo that you can quit. That's the thing, is sometimes you just don't know. You just don't know. I say, hey, is quitting an option? I never thought about it, because to me, it's like your life depends on your decisions to whether you give up or you don't. And if you don't decide to say, hey, I'm done, then you're gonna last as long as you have the energy to last. It's going to keep you going, and your gene has many other supporting genes that allows you to find creative ways to endure a lot of these abuse and heartaches and torture and whatnot. And I think having the ability to not let yourself decide to say, okay, I'm done, I think you can survive much longer, and you'd be surprised how much longer you can survive in that. A lot of people have a certain mission they have to do, and whether or not, like, if the body are given out, or for whatever reason, like a mother would be surviving beyond her ability to survive just because she needs to take care of her child until her child has been given to some place or somebody safe before she passed out and let go of life. And there's a cases where people live beyond their predicted, or their ability, the physical ability to survive. I mean, they've got these energy and they got these miracles from somewhere, and it's from within ourselves, within the genes that supplies that to give us the ability to find ways to make that happen, regardless. Like, if we talk about people lifting cars and whatnot, right? Because even if right, that that you had to, you will. But if you say you don't have to, then you won't. Because human minds is incredible. Because a lot of times, like you say, I'll give myself a whole week to clean my house, right? I will take the whole week to clean my house. If I give myself 1 hour to clean the house, I will finish cleaning the house in 1 hour, because I told myself that. A lot of times, our brains and our genes are capable of making those things work out in the end. And so for Louis, his ability to not even recognize there is a way out, as far as, hey, I give up and just off myself into the water or whatever, that allows him to find other ways to do it. Find, how do I survive? How do I not give in versus, oh, should I give in or should not? If you ponder the questions, then you halfway lost the battle. Because to me, if you never ponder the questions, then you will never have to make that decisions. And if you do make the decisions, then it's over. Because the moment you take out your cigarettes in your prison, right? It's like that guy's life's over because he gave up.
We all live a lot in the same culture, but everyone also lives in their own different cultures, though. Whether you're an evangelical Christian or a Jehovah Witness or a Buddha or just a common guy, and because it's interesting that I'm going to relate this now to this book I'm reading called Mental Immunity.
Okay, cool.
That sounds right in line with this.
Yeah, well, so exactly. So it's sort of like, what parasites do we let into our mind that because ideas come at us all the time during the day, and which ones do we actually take on? And he likens it sort of like how your brain's immune system should be this sort of bouncer in a way, like, hey, whoa, I'm not going to let you in. You're a crazy idea. Whoa, we're not going to let you in. But also inside your brain is like these security guards rolling around, like, whoa, this guy's creating a lot of havoc. Let's get him the fuck out of here. How the hell did he get in? But I think it's interesting, because like there are just some people who just have different thoughts or whatever. Like, no, I'm not gonna let this like crack me here or whatever. And so it is just, and I think it's just a lot from probably like, maybe instinctually, like even like biologically what's inside of us, because everyone's just kind of created differently, but probably just like whether we picked up things from our culture when we were a kid or an adult, or things we read. And I think we're highly influenced by that.
Yeah, I think the key driver, it is your brain that decides, your mental state that decides. Because I've seen like really go back to the early 1900s, 1950. I mean, the conditions for a lot of people are worse. Talking about like the World War, for example, there's a lot of heartache, but people survive, and not a lot of people would die from suicide. But nowadays, like, people die from, oh, somebody called me names on the internet. It's like, what the hell? Why are you depressed and why are you killing yourself? Is they think, so the thing is, it's all about that relativity, right? Meaning they see somebody's abuse and they say, well, that's less than me or more than me, right? They use that as an excuse to let the parasite, whatever, in, to say, hey, it's okay to get depressed and die, right? But back in the, like, talk about back in the days when you're talking about people are like really wild west, like all the jungle, and people are like getting killed every day, getting beat up and getting maimed from like, the legs, hand, everything. I mean, people are getting beat up so much, but they don't have those kind of depressions and the kind of suicidal rates that we have today. Today is like, somebody bullied me on the internet. I mean, it's not even physical. And these guys go and off themselves and go and buy some gun and start shooting people and then shooting themselves. And you see all that because it's all about, did you let somebody to influence you to decide, yes, what's the trigger level? Trigger, okay, a certain level, you lower that gate and then trigger anything more than that going to trigger it. The mental fortitude, it depends on, let's say, for example, if the three guys in that raft, right? If one of the guys decides to go crazy and kill himself, right? The other two guys are more likely to say, well, if he kills himself, then it's okay for me to kill myself too. So they're gonna, but if they continue to, band together and do whatever, then they don't. So it's the mind as a gateway to decide whether or not you want to survive or you don't. And I think that's the fundamental concept that we have to understand. And a lot of things can influence that level of threshold where it would tip or it doesn't tip.
I agree. I mean, I had two questions that came to mind I wanted to ask you guys. First one was, if you were watching Louis, like, let's just say you were hovering above Louis the entire time, you saw the plane crash, you saw him hanging out on the raft and just suffering and suffering and suffering. You saw him in the prisoner of war camp, suffering and suffering and suffering, and like, sick and disease and people dying all around. Do you think you were more likely to if you had the choice to say, hey, I'm pulling Louis out of this one, do you think you would be more likely to do that than Louis would? Or obviously Louis didn't, but anybody in that situation.
Like if you were God or something?
Like if you were just watching as like not God, but like if you were just watching as like, I have the ability to take Louis off this raft right now and just end this and be like, look, this has gone far enough. You know what I mean? Like would you do it? Like, do you think you'd be
No,
more likely to do it, or do you think you would never do it?
I wouldn't pull him out. No.
You don't think so? I mean, you
Yeah.
could. How long could you endure
Oh, you
watching
mean like
somebody
me
suffer?
personally?
Yeah,
No, me
yeah.
personally. I don't know. That's tough to say. I mean, part of me thinks I probably wouldn't be as tough as Louis. I mean, I think about I would want to be pulled out of a soccer game if I got a knee injury, and I wouldn't want to cobble around.
Well,
Right.
like it all boils down to, do you feel sorry for yourself? If you do, then yeah, you will. But if you, so like I
Yeah.
say, if I watch Louis like a movie, and it is going to be based on how he thinks of himself. If he thinks of himself as, I am stronger than this, then I will also be inspired to be stronger. If he feels sorry for his shitty self, then I will also feel shitty for, because we have the tendency to put ourselves in people's shoes, right? So the threshold that I'm talking about in our head and our minds, it's going to go up and down based on what we see. Because if he is not going to say, well, I'm going to endure this, right? Then it gives me inspiration to continue endure, and even if I have to be there with him and endure the hardship and the abuse. But if he talks in a way that, this is hard, this is too much for me to handle, I guarantee you, he and I will get, we won't be finishing whatever that is. They go, because
Right.
to me, is a great lesson that I think I need to remind myself of, is, your brain is so powerful that if you give in, then it gives in. Don't give in, it doesn't give in. Because if you say, hey, my life sucks, right? Then you're going to feel bad and you're going to give in. If you say, my life's good, I have more than other people, I can endure this, you will endure it, because for whatever reason, you have the faculty to make creative decisions and do different things in different ways to achieve what you want. And another saying we used to say, if you, something about that, if you want something, the universe conspires to help you achieve it. This is essentially the same concept. If you allow yourself to say, well, this is too much for me, then it will be too much for you.
Whether you're watching or you're the participant.
Exactly. If I'm watching Louis, right, and he speaks in a way that is self demoralizing and saying, I can't take this anymore, then my threshold is also going to be lower. This is the reason why I see all these new millennials and new kids that grow up today, and they have more higher suicidal rates and more depression rates, just because they're looking at other people. How much are they endure? Somebody endure. I mean, people endure cuts and fights and bruises all the time in school. Now they don't even do that. They just say, hey, you look ugly, and then suddenly everybody say, hey, you too fat, right? And then all these things start to becoming, a pandemic of
Yeah.
societal issues.
Well,
Just
it's like,
because,
and I don't know why, but it's like, yeah, I agree. Like, people take it more personally. Like, now it's like whether like people don't have as tough of a skin, or maybe we were wrong. Maybe back in the day, people didn't have tough skins either, or something. But
No,
I
I
feel
no,
like
you're
peer to
right.
peer.
No, you're definitely right. I think it's that society doesn't want people to hurt so bad that we make sure that people don't hurt. Like True was saying, the threshold of society is lower. Of when we
Yep.
see people in pain, we want to stop it. So they
Yep.
never have to go through the pain to figure
Well,
out.
it's just like, dude, yeah, pain is okay.
Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with pain. Pain is when we learn, right? Like pain is when you grow. Pain is when you know.
It's funny because it seems like unreasonable to be like to endure pain if you don't have to, though.
That's what I'm saying is,
Like,
if I was watching
so
Louis, like I would be more tempted to be like, God, dude, I'm just taking you out of this, man. I can't watch you be in pain anymore, and suffer. Like, you know what I mean? I would want to go step in way before it got to where
his mental fortitude will inspire you to be more like him.
I agree.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. It's
If
contagious.
he has a sorry mental attitude to this situation, you will also have a sorry mental attitude to your situation. This is what I see as far as today's society. Everybody is feeling sorry for themselves, and they say, well, I have this job where they only pay me like $100,000, and I have to sit there all day and grade paperwork or do this or do that. Versus, back in the days where you do things that are like hazardous to your health, and you have to do it, and you don't mind. I mean, you're talking about people back in the 1900s, right? You get people who are completely murder outside, in the neighborhood just because you walk from one place to the next place and you get, guns everywhere and people wild west that you can get killed any day. But it doesn't stop them from going out and doing things and passing on the genes to the next generations. To have that today, it's like, something like COVID comes in and everybody's saying, I mean, that's to me is the level of relativity of me compared to someone else. And that means that if any event that happens to me and it happens to kind of do a spike above my threshold, then whatever I do, for example, people have guns, people have whatever. Somebody saying, I have this family member that I don't really like, and they abusing me, and go, you know what I mean? And you're talking about like compare that to in the 1900 and 1800 in the 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 1000 or whatever. I mean, life is more brutal back then. You're talking about like in the French Revolution in 1600, talking about people like will I mean,
the king of England.
People put you on a cross, right? People will actually put you on a stake and burn you alive.
The King of England and his wife had 16 children, and only 2 of them made it past 10 years old. Can you imagine that in modern day times, having that many children as the King of England, the richest person in the world, and losing that many children over the course of your lifetime to disease and hunger, whatever, all the shit that happened.
But that's the thing, like, I mean, are we gonna end up having like scenarios where people like have to go through pain? Then it's like, I mean, because let's say like your kid,
no, I don't think so.
I just saying, it's like you don't ever want to like have to see your kid. You don't have to like pull them out. You don't ever have to see your kid go through pain, but yet like that's what makes them stronger.
I mean, I think
it is
pain.
True. That's true.
For me, is like pain is one of the primary way to get a mental fortitude, but it's not the only way. It's probably 80%, but there's another 20% that still can be attained other ways. For me, it's about like, for example, me and you doing things right now, right? These helps me with my mental fortitude. Me watching you talking about Louis, right, will help me with my mental fortitude. Me talking about how people are depressed and on this helps me with my fortitude. It isn't. I mean, this is not pain for me, but it actually gives me the ability to be stronger in case I have to come across something like this. Right?
Maybe it does. Maybe that's all BS, though. You never know until you're in the situation. I hope it does.
Yeah, no, I
truly believe it does. I mean, I don't know 100%, but I think based on what I've seen so far in my life thus far, I mean, I don't have the time bomb that Chris has, but I do have a few dramatic events in my life, and I think having those and having the ability to be prepared mentally before the event hit actually helps me to overcome it, because a lot of times I do have this negative thoughts, right? Yep. These negative thoughts, I can crush it. I say, well, I'm not going to go there, right? Whatever you don't think about, right? You won't have to make that decision. Therefore, it will never come across your spectrum. So there is negative thought, you push it out of your mind from processing it.
Yeah, but I mean, things can always come up. But I think what I get though is that you're saying like that awareness, but also that preparation, whether you're going into a match or something like that, and knowing what it's going to be like and visualizing how you're going to end up dealing with it. It does help that visualization.
I think pain's like a catapult to knowledge, but you can slow build as well. Like, that isn't necessarily, it's like going to the gym every day, right? Like I mean, I agree with Drew. Like there is alternate paths to an event like this where you can figure whether or not you get thrown into the fire and have to figure out what you're made of and be revealed. Like you can slowly reveal yourself over time to yourself and work through that. Now, what happens come game time? Who knows? That's still up in the air, but you'll probably be a little bit more prepared for game time when game time happens.
Yeah, I do worry because this conversation just makes me think about another book that I read called Coddling of the American Mind. And, just kind of brings home this point about like, we're all getting soft. And even if let's say like me, like the three of us are like, harden up, we'll maybe harden our kids up a little bit, but like the majority of people I don't think are like that. And the majority of people want comfort, and we are constantly running away from pain towards pleasure. So I mean, I think we're just like entering a new realm of society or something where, because it makes me think about too, actually there's playgrounds in Europe that they designed so that there aren't as many safety things so the kids will get hurt. Like they don't like over-engineer them, over-design them so that there's no way kids will get hurt the way they have done in the US here. And so this book really brings home too how soft a lot of people are, and maybe how soft I am. Or let's say if I'm driving in my truck, I'm like, no, I want to crank the heat up here, even though like, gosh, it's like I already got a jacket on and everything. I think about like the Iceman, Wim Hof or whatever. He's like, no, man, like don't put your heat on in your car. You need to adjust.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make an amazing point there, because you're right. Like as you see society going further and further away from pain toward, to protect each other, you see more and more mental illness, because we're the most alive when we're stressed. Like, I mean, without a doubt, we're most alive when we are stressed.
No, you're most alive because you felt the differences from the bottom and the top, right? Because it's like we're talking about taking the blue pill versus the red pill. That's how we live as a species. Like I told you, if your eyes doesn't have micro movement, you become blind. You can't see anything.
I guess what I was meaning though is like our human condition, in my opinion, is most engaged in the world when we are stressed. I'm not saying that we want to be stressed all the time. I'm just saying that it brings out everything, whether you like it or not. That's engaging.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like whether you're in a ring or something and things are really up, like you're alive,
And when the further you run away from that, the more kind of you're just kind of dead. You know what I mean? Like we thrive that's why we have these emotions and these thoughts and these feelings and the chemicals.
You get happy. Let's say you get nothing, and you get like $100. You get $1,000. From 0 to 1,000, it's a huge leap. You're really happy. Then you go from 1,000 to 2,000. It's the same amount of leap, but it doesn't feel as much. You're not as happy. And then when you have like million, you have to go to 100 million. It's going to determine whether or not something is alive. We're alive or not is by the threshold. The differences in where we are and where we go to. So sometimes we have to go down and go up, because you can't keep going up. If you go down and then go up again, there's a big jump from the bottom to the top.
Well, I think that even like, thinks about like drugs too. Drugs can make you feel real alive, or like once a month when I have coffee, it's like, damn, that really like makes me feel alive. But like, I only feel once a month,
But true of you can become a pain junkie too. It goes both ways. Like it needs to be a good balance of pain, right? Like you can't be constantly striving for more and more pain and suffering. Then you end up running 100 miles, and you're running these ultra marathons and you're just destroying yourself. For what? I
wonder if I can be addicted to running, because like if I don't run in a day, I've been working out, maybe running like 4 or 5 days a week or whatever. But sometimes I just want to go for a run, and I have to tell myself, like, it's 8 o'clock at night, relax or whatever. You can go for a run in the morning, or your knee hurts, take a break. And I know some people who push themselves, they're so addicted to running, run 13, 14 miles, even though they're injured. It's like,
relax. Chill out.
They're not getting the extra boost from running 13 miles to running 20 miles, right? Because if they stop running for a while, they can run 3 miles and get the same kind of alive feeling. Running from 13 to 20.
Yeah, we aren't used to just like that thing, like feeling like shit, and whether it was that book, I don't know if you guys read the book, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I just like how he talks about how it's like, back in the day, you just feel like poo, and it's totally okay,
Feel all the feels, right? And that's okay. I'm gonna process it. Well, very cool. All right, this is a fun conversation. Any final thoughts, though? You guys have any final thoughts on this one for the night?
No.
Mental fortitude, man. Mental fortitude. Practice it. It may help in the future.
I love it.
Your brain as you train, as you go to the gym.
I think don't run from pain. I don't know that you actually can die until you mentally say, I'm ready to die. And I feel like even old people, you see so many old people that are like, I've lived long enough, and then that's when they die. You know what I mean? Or you see people where they're like, no, I'm not ready. The guys on the raft, Phil and Mac.
But I think even with our mental games, though, we're running from pain, though. His game was like envisioning certain things or doing things. I think we're always running from pain in some way, but it's just like, is it actually a sustainable way to run from pain?
Good question. I mean, obviously we can't live forever, so at a certain point in time, I feel like that's
when
the
you thing make is you accepted that you don't live forever.
So I mean,
so that's what I'm saying is catch yourself, because if you want to live forever, you have to say, I'm not gonna die, right? You have to understand it's beyond. If it's outside influence, that doesn't count. But if you have to give in, that's your decision. You will die if you accept it.
I kind of tend to agree at this point in time. I'm with you.
I don't know. I think that's a little out there, But aging.
But that's the thing is, you are putting limitations on yourself. That well, my organs don't do that. Well, who told you have to use your own organ? Can you have other organs replaced, right? Can you
Mhm.
have mechanical organs? Can you have something that
Well,
regenerates?
exactly. Aging is just like a problem that can be solved, though. Like that's what
Because
you're
if you
like
think that it cannot be
blood
solved, then it won't be
transfusions and
solved. Because if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I agree. That might be a conversation for another day. It's an interesting
Yeah.
thought. I think we could probably dig into it, but for now, let's put a pin on it. That was a fun conversation, guys. Thanks for joining. And Snow, it's good to see you. And the question we can leave for anybody is, what stories of others inspire you to fight when hope looks like it may be lost?
The other thing is, how strong is your mental fortitude?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Sounds
Thanks for
good.
joining.
We see you.